Good afternoon, everyone, to the fifth session of Hashtag 3 Pointers, wherein we always invite our subject matter specialists to talk about the subject. Today, with us, we have Dr. O.P. Mishra, a PhD in sociology from JNU, New Delhi, and currently the Joint Commissioner of Police Economic Offences Wing. Apart from many other things, he also wears the hat of a prison reformer as well as author of several books. He is also the recipient of President's Special Police Duty Medal, President's Police Medal for Meritorious Service, as well as the President's Police Medal for Distinguished Services. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Trisha.
Today, sir, we'll be talking about policing in these testing times. And I've framed a set of questions for you. So I'll start with the first one. During the coronavirus lockdown, Delhi police has earned a lot of reputation as the Corona warriors. How did you motivate your force in this direction?
Trisha, let me first of all start with the very basic presumption that police is the most visible arm of administration. And if you see historically, it has always been at the forefront whenever any crisis has taken place in the society. So keeping with that tradition, in this unprecedented pandemic also, Delhi police in particular, and I would say that Indian police as a whole has come up to this challenge. And so I would say that standing for challenges, it is in the very DNA of a police officer. They have to stand for, to diffuse any kind of a crisis. But every crisis has its own protocol. It has its own roles and responsibilities, very well-defined roles and responsibilities. And at times, police also has to perform certain duties and responsibilities which are not in the traditional domain of policing as such. Particularly, that's what we are seeing in this. Let me tell you that Indian policemen are also part of an Indian society which has always propagated a philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. It has also, everybody should be without any disease and everybody should be good. We are talking about well-being of everybody. And to preparing our people for this, we actually, there was a sensitization up to the cutting edge level. And the sensitization process was led by the Commissioner of Police Delhi himself. And he sensitized the officers. Officers in turn also sensitized the ground functionaries that what they are supposed to do in this. And accordingly, in day-to-day policing, the new protocol, new roles and responsibilities, how it has to be taken up, that was also, actually, that also emerged in this whole process.
So lockdown, social distancing, wearing the mask, all these are very alien to Indian habit. And we are generally quite gregarious people. So the work was really cut out for you to implement these things against the grain of we people. How did you manage to do it?
As I just told you that every crisis has a protocol. And the basic protocol for prevention of coronavirus is, I would say, there are three very critical elements. That an individual has to wear mask. The individual is supposed to maintain social distancing. And under a national lockdown situation, he's also not supposed to move out of his house, except for essential duties, except. But he cannot move out as he has been normally moving when this pandemic was not there. So we also, let me also tell you that people, I mean, the regulation of behavior is done in three ways. The first way is that you regulate your own behavior yourself. Most of the thing which we do, we normally regulate our own behavior itself. If we are not able to regulate our behavior, then at times societal pressure comes. Out of that societal pressure and norms, because of collective conscience, we are able to regulate our behavior also. And if that also is not very effective, then you have a legal control. I mean, a control by an apparatus, control by a system through which, if you do not follow a certain kind of a norm, then there are punitive provisions to enforce that particular kind of a behavior. So in COVID-19 situation also, there was a massive education and awareness program by Delhi police at all level in the residential localities, with resident associations, with all stakeholders of the society. And they were actually educated that why this is required, what is the advantage of it. And you know that apart from this, print and electronic media has also played a very important role in emphasizing the advantages of these three important aspects of COVID-19, that why we should wear masks. And these are things in which, I mean, it is something like that you are supposed to wear helmet to save your own head. But in wearing a helmet, you are only saving your head. But by putting up a mask, you are not only saving yourself, you are saving your family members, you are saving society, and at a larger level, you are saving the country as a whole. That is why we have a national lockdown, where these things have been prescribed, that every citizen has to adopt this. If you are moving outside, if you are moving in a public domain, if you are moving in a public place, then you have to observe this. So it has been a very, in fact, systematic exercise by the Delhi police regarding this. And wherever people have failed to, despite that education and awareness, they have failed to observe those rules and regulations related to COVID-19, then punitive actions were also taken, because punitive actions were also initiated accordingly in case people fail to conform to that.
And I've seen a lot of very creative and innovative methods of deterring people from going out by the police all across the country, which seems very interesting. And I think they've just been very inventive in how to make sure that the lockdown and everything is safe. But as we're talking about masks, I wanted to ask you this question about the prisons. We understand that many prisoners are engaged in preparing masks and other things during this corona crisis. As a prison reformer, do you see in these actions a glimmer of hope for the future?
With my own experience of handling a prison in Chandigarh as IJ prisons, let me tell you that every prison manual provides some kind of a work to be done while an inmate is trying to, he's undergoing a sentence. And this has three basic purposes. The first is that it keeps the inmate engaged in a very confined space. The second dimension of this provision is to ensure also that the inmate over a period of time develops certain skills, because they are exposed to various skill development trainings also inside the prison. And once they empower themselves with some kind of a skill, then they are meaningfully engaged. So it also economically empowers them, because whatever kind of labor they do in the prison, they are being paid for it also. It varies from prison to prison. And so in this COVID-19 situation also, there has been a very heavy demand for masks. And that is why you could find different varieties of masks. And so much so that it was again prescribed that everybody is not supposed to wear surgical mask also.
Yes.
They could also have some other kind of a mask which only protects their nose, mouth, so that they are not able to get themselves infected when they are moving around.
Yes.
And once this was made clear by the medical fraternity, then improvised versions of masks started coming, and let me also cite you an example that in Delhi police also, many of our women constables, lady constables, they also started stitching masks in bulk beyond their duty hours in the police stations, at our police family welfare centers. And those masks were not only distributed to the policemen, but these masks were also distributed to the common citizens. So prison has definitely, this increasing demand for masks has definitely generated in fact such kind of activities inside the prison, where a lot of creative activity is being promoted. And in many prisons, I'm sure that the inmates are engaged in preparing masks also.
I think in Chandigarh, you also had a store where you could sell these products created by...
Oh yes, in Chandigarh Sector 22 market.
Yeah.
In order to provide a commercial space and to get their creativity recognized by the members of the civil society, I got a exclusive showroom called Season, opened in Chandigarh, one of the oldest markets of Chandigarh in Sector 22.
Okay.
And I am told today that that is one of the most visited places by citizens. Their sweets are very, in fact, popular. And this, every product which is available in that Srijan is actually prepared and made by the inmates of Bottle Jail Chandigarh.
Okay.
And in fact, that exclusive showroom also has 2-3 counters where products from Punjab, Himachal and Haryana prisons, they are also displayed in the same. And if they are liked, then they can be bought also by the people there.
I already feel goosebumps of positivity coming up with all that is happening. But while talking about the economics, there are a lot of the migrant labor, the problem of migrant laborers who actually lost a lot of their jobs in this process. And it's now snowballing into an issue. But leaving the politics aside, we get to know that Delhi police is not just policing them, but also feeding them and giving them shelter. In these actions, do you see an extended role of police in the future?
As I told you, let me first of all make it very clear that police is dynamic in nature. You know, our responsibilities cannot be very static. Yeah. As we have taken up new responsibilities during COVID-19, if some other, the police played a totally different role during tsunami, as you know. So in any disaster situations like this, we do take up new responsibilities. We do tune our operational methodology for day-to-day policing in a way which is the demand of the situation. Okay. Now, migrants movement was stopped all of a sudden during the national lockdown, and they were provided shelter homes. They were arranged space where they could be accommodated. So in Delhi, the responsibility for accommodating them in various shelter homes also came with the Delhi police. And Delhi police was able to shift many of them in the shelter homes, which was manned by the government, which was manned by many other non-governmental organizations also. And they had to ensure that while staying in the shelter homes, again, the social distancing, way of mask, all these things is actually observed by everybody. So the Delhi police officers and men on the ground, they have really played a very important role in reinforcing the same protocol to these people also who are normally not used to this.
Yes.
Who are normally not used to this. And I would like to, in fact, cite an example of a community kitchen which has been set up in Najafgarh, where all women police officers, they are preparing food for, I mean, lot many people, and they include migrant population also who are staying in nearby shelter homes. They come every day, they take their food and it is being served. It is all served free of cost. In fact, as on date when I'm talking to you, more than 77 lakhs of food packets have been distributed by the Delhi police to various sections of people. The other dimension of COVID policing, let me tell you also, that approximately 743 pregnant ladies have been shifted in police control room vans to various hospitals under labor distress. And because, as you know, that there are no commercial transport which is available for going to the hospitals. So these calls were received in our police stations. Our police station vans immediately reached them. They took them to the hospitals, and once they reached hospital in the time, the safe delivery took place. There were 2 newborn babies who were born inside a PCR van itself while they've been transported. So these are new narratives of policing which has emerged in the COVID-19 situations. Senior citizens, approximately more than 25,000 senior citizens, many of them who are staying very alone, who have many immediate needs of medicines, grocery items and all. They were contacted centrally by our police senior citizenship cell, and whosoever needed medicines, whosoever needed any grocery items, it was delivered to them at their residence. We got many calls from the children of the senior citizens who are stranded in Bombay, that their parents need some kind of a medical assistance or medicines. They cannot move out. Could it be delivered? And our beat officers arranged those medicines, and it was delivered to them at their doorsteps.
That's wonderful to hear this. But now coming to the book that you've published. You've published with Niyogi Books a book titled as Watch Out. It was first published in English and then translated into Hindi, Konkani, as well as Punjabi. This is apparently a practical guideline for people to remain safe. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about the contents of the book?
Let me tell you the background for this book. I have often interacted in my more than 3 decades of policing career with the civil society. I have always educated them about ways through which crime can be prevented in the locality, what kind of a basic precautions that citizens, a very important stakeholder in the prevention of crime, should take in their day-to-day life. And it is in that backdrop that I compiled some critical areas of day-to-day life in which normally a person becomes victim of crime. So there are 26 chapters in this whole book, and every chapter is related to an important area where you are becoming victim of a crime in your day-to-day life. For example, you have a chapter on how can you ensure that when you are withdrawing money from ATM, you are not cheated.
Yes.
What kind of precautions you should take while you are withdrawing money from the bank ATMs. If the children are staying alone at home, what basic precautions they are supposed to take when their parents are away. You know, many crimes have taken place that somebody, when they have understood that there is no adult in the house, only children are there, they will enter the house on some pretext or other, and they will commit crime and go back. So what precautions those children who are staying alone at home, that before opening the door, establish the identity of the person, don't open it. Without opening the door wide open, you first interact with the person, establish his credentials, then only you allow entry, talk to your parents if you have some doubt and all. These are very small things which we normally do not observe in day-to-day life. We know, we are not aware of it. When it happens, then we think that, oh, why did it happen? So this book carries, it has, for every age group, for every segment of a society, you will find something in this. Most of people are becoming victims of cybercrime today.
Yes.
So there is a separate chapter. I mean, there is a elaborate discussion on how you can log your complaint on the National Cybercrime Portal, what precautions you are supposed to take when you are interacting on your email and all, how you should not become a victim of cybercrime. A lot of our children become victim of cybercrime. And in this revised edition, I have also added a separate chapter on how we can curb the tendencies of suicides in the youth, in the teen, the growing youth, because they are exposed to some such kind of literature. They are playing games which are very deadly games. So there's a discussion about blue whales also. There's a discussion about Momo also in this book, and what kind of precautions you should take so that you don't become victim of the cyberbullying. Many of our young girls, they are becoming victim of cybercrime. So there are a lot of things in this whole book. There is a separate chapter on the senior citizens, that what kind of a legal protection they do have for their own safety, what kind of a legal backup they have so that they lead a good life. So, and the final chapter in this book is that if at all you have observed or not been able to observe those norms while in your day-to-day life, and you have become a victim of crime, then what precautions you should take if a crime has taken place. You know, most of the time when crime happens, we just go touch everything without realizing that before touching any crime scene, you should call police, because every criminal leaves a trace behind. So there could be something which could be helpful for the police also. So it's a very useful book. I think it has received a lot of positive input wherever I've served and wherever it's in, because it has been translated into, I wanted the reach of this book to go to common man. That is why I got it published in the Hindi, and I think it was the first publication of Hindi by Niyogi. This was the first book which in Hindi which was published by Niyogi itself, and you have now a Kindle edition.
Yes.
So the basic philosophy behind this book is to educate more and more people about prevention of crime.
Thank you very much. Now you are a role model to a lot of people like me. So 3 pointers for any IPS aspirant.
A young person who is entering into Indian civil service, you know, it's a service. Basic motto of this basic institution is that whoever is entering it has to have a motto of serving people. That is why we are called government servants also. Now, for a government servant or for a police officer, I would have 3 very important qualities which I would like them to inculcate in them. The first is that you should have empathy in your conduct, in your behavior, and in your response. We must realize that whosoever approaches police, they approach police under distress situations. And anyone who approaches under distress situation, you are supposed to listen to his grievances patiently. You could have the solution for it, you could not have the solution for it, but hearing the problem is the basic prerequisite for anybody who approaches a police. You know, I always say that a police station's duty officer's room and the OPD in a hospital is almost same. In OPD also people go under very severe emergency. If the doctor is rude, if the doctor is not empathetic to the patient, then definitely the pain of the patient increases. It is a similar situation in the police station also. So the first thing should be that he should have empathy, he should have a patient hearing, he should have qualities of listening, he should be a good listener, he should understand his problem. The second thing should be that his behavior, the overall conduct, work and conduct should have honesty, integrity. I mean, and the third important quality should be that a police officer should always lead from the front. You should be a role model for all your followers. They must know that they can look upon you as somebody who can stand with you during crisis. Leader has to do a lot of unwanted things, but you have to own responsibilities. You have to stand by your men. You have to stand by his all bona fide actions which he is doing. You have to reassure him that I'm with you in discharge of your day-to-day duties. And a good leader can only allow good things to happen in the organization. He will allow inculcation of a lot of good things in the police force also. I think if we are able to have these three qualities, anybody could be a very good. And there are many that while you grow up in the organization, you definitely learn so many things. So the process of learning never stops in life.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving us these insights. And thank you very much for your kind words. I'm sure a lot of people, like young people like me, are also feeling inspired. And we we'll try our best to support in this cause of, in the times like the coronavirus. Thank you very much, sir, for taking out time for the interview.
Okay, thank you very much, Trisha, for giving me this opportunity to interact. Thank you.
Thank you very much.